is to introduce someone to you that you all already know, although perhaps with a different title. Now our city manager, Marlon Brown, we're very pleased to have him here. He's a busy, busy man. So I hope you all have some questions for him, and I try to get him in right away so that he can be off because his secretary watches him like a hawk. She really wants to protect his time because she said he works too much. So welcome, Marlon.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, all of the DSCA members. I hope everyone can hear me clearly.
Yes, everyone can hear you, I believe. I'm going to, before I ask any question, Marlon, I'm going to ask the board of directors if any of them would like to weigh in first. David, how about you? You were thinking of some salient points earlier. Oh, you're muted, David. Could you? Thank you so much.
Hi, Marlon. The one question I have is, it's a question and an offer. As you know, I and some others, Patrick, have supplied information to you, data on populations, COVID, traffic matters, impact fees. And I guess I'm reaching out to see if there's any areas that would be helpful to you where some more information or data or facts would be helpful to you and the commission as you consider various matters. For example, at the meeting the other evening, there was a matter of discussion of prioritization of MPO projects. And it occurs to me that maybe some additional information might be helpful as you consider criteria, and the commission kicks that around a bit. But I'm just reaching out to see if there's more we could do to be helpful.
Oh, wow. Thank you, David. And again, as I may have shared in the past, related to David, David has been sort of a wealth of assistance to the city in terms of all of the analytical information he's provided, and we are forever grateful for what David does, not only with the tracking the COVID numbers, but he takes on any type of analytical task that we have. David, the only problem with that is that there's a quick turnaround on that. The item is actually back on the City Commission agenda for February 16th. The item is actually due today. And so even though the information that we would be compiling is not in the backup yet because we're waiting on all the commissioners to weigh in, we're going to give them the criteria. I have no problem with Colleen McGee, who is taking the lead on that, kind of sharing the criteria. It is not quantitative, it's more qualitative. But I have no problem with her sharing that quickly with you. But we're trying to get that out to the commissioners before the end of the week with the list of projects that we previously identified, get that turned around as quickly as possible so we can get them information so they can make an informed decision by the 16th. So again, I will make sure Colleen reaches out to you to see if there's anything you can assist with.
Good, thank you. And I'll make sure to get that disseminated in some way, Eileen. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Other questions? Roger had his hand up first. Roger.
Thank you. Marlon, I was at a chamber meeting in January where Joseph McKenna from the Orchestra made a presentation. And he said towards the end of his presentation that they would be making an announcement in mid-2021 about relocating to the county. Are you aware of or what's happening with that?
Yes, so again, my phone rang off the hook after that announcement or that statement was made, to even the point where Joe McKenna reached out to me and said, yes, again, just because of the decision, the previous decisions the City Commission made, they are just keeping their options open. And so even though they have not made a hard decision as to a future location, it is just, kind of indicating that they're keeping the options open. So that's all I've heard from them, Roger. And if I hear more, I would be more than happy to share with, with anyone.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, there's a lot of interest in downtown organizations that not move out. They're starting to get a little nervous about this.
Other question, Patrick.
Well, maybe as a follow-up to that, and then also the prior question, but on the looking at Payne Park there, and what was initially looked at, is there an option for dialogue on potentially other possible siting arrangements there, that might be available for discussion? The question we're looking at is, how can we get parties back together to engage in productive dialogue versus, using the Tribune as your method of communication? Unfortunately, negatively too, at times.
So Patrick, let me understand. Are you saying that there may be some interest in Payne Park or another part of Payne Park? I want to understand the first part of your question.
Well, it was our understanding that the orchestra had said if they're going to stay in the city, Payne Park was their target location. And if there was a particular issue with, gee, we don't want to move the duck pond or something like that, it's a big location. And in fact, the northeast corner is actually closer to the garage, if that was their whole purpose. And, so is there another way to cite that? And really kind of have a working dialogue to say, what else can the city do? What else can we do to bring this about? Because the residents here are really concerned about losing, yet another arts.
So good question, Patrick. As you all are probably all aware, that was their first location, that northeast corner of Payne Park, close to, or right on top of the skate park. The position that the orchestra has taken is they are not going to come forth to the city for a site or to have a discussion. They would like to be invited back by the city. And so again, either a commissioner or commissioners or whomever may have to ask the rest of their colleagues if there is an interest in inviting the orchestra back to the table and to start those discussions. But again, as everyone knows, Payne Park was not supported as a location. But again, Patrick, to your point, would there be another part of Payne Park that may be of interest? I don't know, but someone, and again, it can't be me. It has to be. It was a policy decision not to move forward with them. It has to be a policy decision to bring them back.
Okay. One other quick follow-up to what David Lowe was talking about with the population, how we can help with the numbers there. Having looked at this, we also been looking at with the downtown condominiums and how much of a increase in property values have been generated for the city. So not only impact fees, et cetera, but just overall population and revenue generation, and how that really, how we can help in providing that information is a way that I think maybe helps not only staff, but commission understand that when you look at the city's growth, I don't know the exact number, but the highest percentage is right here in the greater downtown area. Mm-hmm. And yet when you look at with all that growth, there's been very little increase in traffic overall. So I think there's some comparisons in which that vehicle traffic, So obviously those people need to get around, and that is a thinking that some people may not really understand why we need more of the, multimodal. And I just felt like in some of the commission dialogues and some of the other public comments, there's not that understanding of how the rapid increase over the last 5 years in population residential growth has changed, but not impacted from a traffic growth, and how we can better emphasize that is what we're looking for.
So I think forums like this is really helpful to, when you invite commissioners, to your meetings, to kind of share with them truly the impact of, the central core of the city and, the need for alternative modes of transportation. Because I'll tell you, a lot of the commissioners, when we talk about some of these multimodal type projects like trails and widening sidewalks and really making it more of a pedestrian bicycle safe environment, they also hear from the Barrier Islands who are trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And so, there is that balance and that debate that, every road, is a challenge for anything the city wants to do to really create what we call a complete street. And so I would say too that maybe you invite, the mayor of Longboat Key or the town manager of Longboat Key or and those individuals to your meetings to kind of share with them from your perspective how this impacts your quality of life. Because all right now they're thinking about is how do I get from Longboat Key to 75? How do I get from Longboat Key to the hospital? And it would be good to invite them to your, your meeting so they can hear from you how that impacts your quality of life.
Good point. Thank you.
I have a question. Marlon, the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association sent a letter to the commissioners and a letter to the governor about the way the advisory boards are being conducted. I appreciate the fact that Commissioner Alpert brought it up at I think the one commission meeting before the last one last night. And it was to go on the agenda, I believe someone mentioned February 9th, but I don't see it on there. That's a workshop. Do you know when that is scheduled to be discussed? Because we had requested that the city commission send a letter as well. And despite opposition from the current mayor, Commissioner Alpert did push forward and insist that it go on an agenda.
Okay. Okay, Irene. Yeah, so Commissioner Alpert did bring that up. There was some discussion, as you know, at the previous city commission meeting, just discussing the ability to have virtual meetings in general. And again, it was, now, so I just want to kind of step back from the letter for a quick minute. And, Mr. Forney was very clear that the governor's executive order applied to advisory boards as well. Hence the reason I believe for the letter to say, hey, Governor, kind of relax your executive order to allow these to continue.
Right.
The February 9th meeting is a workshop, so they can't take any action. So we'll have to put it on the February 15th or 16th meeting so the commission can take action on also sending a letter to the governor. So I will make sure that that's on the agenda for, I'm getting the dates mixed up because Monday is a holiday for us. I think that's the 16th. So it's either the 16th or the 17th. One of those meetings, we have to put it on the agenda for the commission to approve moving that letter forward to the governor.
Thank you.
The 9th, yes, the 9th is a discussion about advisory boards, but they can't take any action. And so the letter is not on that meeting.
Okay, but it wouldn't be appropriate for them to discuss, this is an issue that is different from what they're discussing regarding advisory boards?
Correct, it is.
Okay,
It is.
all right. And we really would appreciate having it on the agenda as soon as possible. Other questions?
And Eileen, I will get with Commissioner Alpert, so I will put it under her name and get it on the agenda for the commission to review.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Bob Perullo.
Yeah, hi, Marlon. This is Bob Perullo with Broadway Promenade. My question is regarding amplified music. It's an old chestnut that goes around from time to time. But I'm wondering, with the new police chief, will there be a different sort of enforcement or maybe a more aggressive enforcement of that? Right now, someone who lives between 11th and 12th on Coconut loves blasting music for hours on end whenever they're there, and it actually rattles the windows. And I'm wondering, what's the best way we can address something like this?
So, good question, Bob. The city attorney's office right now is working on bringing back to the commission a discussion about sound, what we call the sound ordinance, because again, I don't think there is a weekend that goes by that I get an email or a call from residents that live downtown about different areas of downtown and the noise, whether it's Art Ovation, whether it's Melvin's, whether it's Rafferty's. I don't get a lot of complaints anymore about Madison's. And so I'll probably kind of talk about the chief as well, because we have a new chief. And so I'll probably take an opportunity to kind of share after I answer Bob's question. One of the things that we are going to have a discussion about, and I know this is not timely, I think the city attorney is looking at probably the first meeting in April to bring back a general discussion about the sound ordinance. One of our neighborhood associations, Arlington Park Neighborhood Association, with CCNA's backing, had talked about increased fines for repeat violators. And so he wants to kind of bring all of that back so we can have a discussion about, the sound ordinance in itself. It is really, if I'm a police officer, or if I'm a code enforcement officer, that sound ordinance, if you've ever read it, you'll be confused by how to apply it. And so, that's in a nutshell, all outdoor amplified music is supposed to be lowered. Okay, it's not stopped, lowered below 65 decibels after 11 p.m. on weekdays and 12 p.m. on weeknights. And so some of the issues that we are encountering with some of these outdoor venues, for example, Art Ovation is a rooftop outdoor facility. The way the sound ordinance is written is that you're supposed to take the reading from the property line. Guess where the property line of Art Ovation is? It's down on the street level. The noise, when they take the actual reading, it does not register at the property line. So legally, if we were to be challenged, I understand, it is a nuisance and disturbance to residents, we'll have a hard time, saying that, we measured it across the street and it was more than 65 decibels, when the ordinance says you have to measure it from the property line. And so those are the things that we have to clean up in the ordinance. And then obviously the time as to when, that decibel level drops, should it be 10 o'clock, should it be 11 o'clock, should it be 12 o'clock? There is a battle, or a debate, not a battle, as to the vibrancy of downtown. Should it really be, should it really be 11, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock? And so we're going to have that discussion with the commission at the beginning of April. I know it doesn't give anyone the peaceful enjoyment of their residence, because this will continue, but we're going to do our best to see how we can regulate and enforce what we have on the books.
Great, thank you very much.
So let me talk about our new chief, if you don't mind, Eileen, can I?
Please do.
All right. So, obviously, since my my appointment and my interim appointment, I've made some changes, in terms of the leadership in the organization. As you all know, Deputy Chief Pat Robinson is now Deputy City Manager. He came over in early December. Again, I had no intention of changing anyone's role and anyone's responsibility. Beginning in January, everyone knows about the incident at the police department related to the chief and the statement that she made. I will tell everyone on this call, as I've told the media, the chief was counseled. The chief was never forced out. In all my meetings with the chief, I said, Chief, you can be here as long as you want. I have no intention to force you to resign. You're a very good chief. You do a good job. And this is regardless of the issues within the department itself. And I told her she can be here as long as she wanted to be here. Obviously, as you know, what happened, it got a lot of media attention, and the chief approached me and said, Marlon, I think it's time for me to hang up, my badge and my belt. And again, I repeatedly asked the chief, I said, Chief, again, I want you to make sure that you're making the right decision for you. Again, this is not about the organization. This is what's right for the chief and her family. I said, and Bob Forney was in the room with me, and so you can ask Bob Forney. I asked her 3 times, Chief, are you sure you want to make this decision? You can be here as long as you want to be here. And she said, Marlon, I want to leave. And so that, with that, again, I'm not going to force anyone to be in a place that they don't want to be. I want individuals to enjoy their lives, their livelihood. And with that, yes, I accepted her resignation. And so, fast forwarding to the appointment of Chief Reeser as the next chief. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm drinking from the reservoir. There's a lot on my plate. I have new commissioners. I'm trying to get this organization restructured, reorganized, to spend time on doing a national search for a new chief would have just taken an inordinate amount of time. And it's not that I am trying to shy away from that, but I have some really good captains in the organization. And, again, I don't know how long Chief Reeser is going to be here, but I think there'll be another opportunity to really, do a national search and really engage the community in terms of helping me choose, who should be the future chief of the organization. So I had a really talented captain who had the respect of the community, who had the respect of the rank and file, that didn't have any baggage. And, because of the need to fill that vacuum as quickly as possible, given everything that was happening in the city with all of the, the media and the attention that was given, I thought that it was really important for me to quickly fill that position, get somebody in place and stabilize the entire organization. And so that is the reason that I, went after Chief Reeser. He gladly accepted, and he's now the chief of police. And I think he's going to do a good job. Again, very well respected, talented, knows law enforcement, has been there for, the last, 29 years. And, I will just ask you to support him and support, the men and women who serve under him as well.
Marlon, if I could just follow that up, I'm sure you have been, you're aware of the discussion that's going around town quite vehemently that the ouster of the chief was orchestrated. Orchestrated in part by the Herald Tribune, by the PBA, by Martin Hyde, by any number of people who have been just trying to bring her down for years and years and years, despite her record, by the way. How would you address that?
I mean, I would say, again, at the end of the day, the decision is mine. And if indeed that influenced me, then I would have said, I asked for the chief's resignation or I terminated the chief. And so those of you who may have her personal cell number, call her and see, and you can ask her the conversations that we've had. I am not swayed by the media. I'm not swayed by those who are not part of my city organization and those who don't see day to day what these men and women do in terms of serving this organization. I am not influenced by that. I'm influenced by the quality of your work ethic, your integrity, your respect for those that you serve, meaning those of you who are out on this Zoom call, and that you keep a high standard of dignity and the way you carry yourself professionally, so on and so forth. As I said, the chief did a great job while she was here. I shared with her many times that I wanted her to be part of my team. I was not, pushing her out. And so I know there'll be rumors out there. People are going to come to all kinds of conclusions. People will say, whatever they want to say. But at the end of the day, that's my decision. That's why I was appointed city manager. And the decision was really the chief's.
Thank you for addressing that. Other questions for Peter?
Mr. City Manager, thank you very much for appearing with us and giving us clear answers to our questions. I'm going to give you a softball question. We got a severe budget problem coming up, and we're entering into budget season. How do you see us handling this shortfall and still maintaining the quality of life that we've come to expect in Sarasota?
All right. So, Peter, I don't think that was a softball. So right now, I would tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are not experiencing any budget shortfalls. Our revenues right now are ahead of our expenditures. I have, again, really amazing staff in our finance department that, that on a daily basis are watching the numbers. Obviously, I understand that our revenues, at the end of the day, may not necessarily come in as we expect, in terms of next year, because that's what we're talking about next year's budget. We have to look at property taxes and all of our sales taxes, etc. They may not come in where we were. One of the things that we did during COVID was that we made some tough decisions in terms of cutting staff. We offloaded a number of part-time employees. We did not fill positions that full-time employees actually left, and we froze all of those positions. Even with this current budget, we directed all of the departments not to ask for any new staff, and so there were no new staff added to this year's budget that we are in, and so that is the type of decision making that we make, the kind of criterion that we look at when we start making budget decisions. One of the things that I shared with the City Commission is that they're going to be part of this process upfront and not at the end. Now, they have been involved in it, during the process, and at the end of the budget process, when we come to the public hearings, there's still arguments about what should be funded, what should not be funded, whether we are spending too much money. I want to have all of those issues discussed upfront, during, and at the end. And, so there are no surprises that someone, if Peter Fanning was one of the elected officials, say, I did not know, or I did not agree. Let's have a conversation throughout. So we just developed the budget calendar. The commissioners have not yet seen it. I just sat down with the finance director and we went over the budget calendar, adding in there updates, regular updates with the commission as to what we're hearing from departments, what we're seeing, how the revenues are performing, so that they are in the know. They are in the know throughout. So there are no surprises at the end. And so don't know yet, Peter, what the shortfalls will be. When we get the property appraisals, valuations, we will know how those are performing. The state, great, information that we get quarterly from the state as to how the revenue sharing is going in terms of our sales taxes, our gas taxes, so on and so forth. So we regularly watch those things, and they help us forecast what to expect in the future year. And yes, we may have to make some tough decisions, but we'll see as we proceed through the budget season.
Thank you.
Other questions? I will, if the board of directors doesn't have any other questions, I'll quickly open it up to those who are in the virtual audience, but we only have a few minutes. Are there any questions? Yes, Ted Wilson, I can see you, so I can call on you, please. And I just would like to say, if you have a question, please put your video on so that I can see you or otherwise indicate. Ted?
Marlon, good to see you. The two city commission workshops on the 8th and 9th of this month, can you give us any insights into, should we expect any new plans for Bobby Jones? And what, if any, advisory boards do you think are kind of going to be discussed in detail? Thank you.
Thank you, Ted, and great to see you as well, Ted. The two workshops coming up on Monday and Tuesday. On Monday will be a discussion about Bobby Jones. As you all know, at our workshops, commissioners can't take any action. And so this is an opportunity to get the commission all up to speed as to where we were, how we started all of this, especially the commissioners, where we came from, the decisions that the commissioners made between then and now, and to share with them where we are today. I would tell you that Richard Mandel, has completed the design of the 27 holes, 18 regulation and 9 adjustable. So, there's been some questions about, stopping, his work. He's done. And that is money already spent. The next step is to share with the commission that, taking his plans, getting some specifications done with the plans and putting those out to bid. And so we'll be sharing that with the commission, the status of where we are with the clubhouse and, what we're doing there in terms of the design of the clubhouse and where that stands today. We'll also be discussing with them our discussions with the Conservation Foundation of Sarasota County in terms of where we are with the easement, the conservation easement, and those discussions that we are having with them. So it's to provide them an update on the design, where we are, the next steps, and all our discussions with all our partners, including SwiftMud. We have a grant that we've applied to SwiftMud for. We are number 19 on the high priority list, and 19 is not bad in the SwiftMud world. We also have some conversations that we're having with Sarasota County in terms of interconnectivity with their park to the northeast, and also with the ongoing maintenance of the stormwater facilities that we have on there. One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that the water entering Bobby Jones from the northeast, from the Bendersons, the Meadows, etc., once it comes into Bobby Jones, that it leaves much cleaner than the way it was received in terms of removing some of the nutrients that that the water bodies have, so that when it gets into the bay, it's much cleaner than expected. On Tuesday, we're talking about the CRA, the Newtown CRA plan, and the update to that plan. And as you know, that CRA was started back in 2008. It goes out to 2047, 2048. And so every 10 years, it's really good to kind of polish off that plan, get it renewed, re-energized, and kind of refocus how to spend those CRA dollars. That's the community redevelopment area. And then the last item is the advisory boards. And what we expect, Ted, is that, every advisory board that we have, we're going to have the mayor's, this is the mayor's item. He's going to talk about sort of why he has this on the agenda, sort of his vision for advisory boards. But staff will be there to talk about the advisory boards, the importance of those boards, if they're statutorily required or required by ordinance, the staffing that we provide to those boards, including any type of budgetary, information, and if there are any vacancies and how those vacancies could be filled, so on and so forth. Is there an opportunity to combine boards, or is there any opportunity to do away with any boards? And so that is the gist of Monday and Tuesday.
Thank you. Irv Ross.
Yes, Mr. City Manager, I'm on the board of directors of Bay Plaza Condominium. We are across the street from the hotel, right? And my understanding is that they were zoned to have a restaurant on the top of their building for their guests, and they have since opened it up to anyone walking down the street, and it's become more of a drinking hole or a pub with live, loud music. And I'm wondering if anyone in the city is looking into whether or not they are in violation of any laws in terms of how they're operating currently.
Excellent question. So that is a question that we have put forward to, before we take action, put forward to the management of Art Ovation. We've sent them a letter, certified letter, basically asking them to define what they are, because you're right. Are they an accessory restaurant to the downstairs restaurant, or are they a bar? Because, you know, depending on which one they are, if they're a bar, they should have gone through a major conditional use process. If they're an accessory restaurant to downstairs, then they cannot, you know, have the type of activities that they're having, you know, after, you know, 12 midnight with the music blasting, etc. So they obviously they have lawyered up. Their attorney has sent us a letter. We'd asked them to respond to our certified letter by last Friday. They have asked us to give them until next Wednesday. We told them no, we need an answer by the 5th. When is the 5th? Friday. So they have, if depending on what we hear from them by Friday, we are ready to take action against them in terms of the noise situation. Mr. Ross, I don't know if you were here when you heard my response earlier, but there is an issue related to how we measure the sound and where we measure it from.
Yeah, I was. It's particularly difficult because they're operating several stories high.
Exactly. And so, and that's part of the problem with the noise, the sound ordinance, and that we need to fix. But to your point, my hope is that once we hear from them on Friday, it will give us the, you know, hopefully some options to see what we can do to mitigate your peaceful enjoyment of your residence.
Thank you.
Marlon, just as an aside, I did some research as one of the groups I was a part of about Art Ovation, and I often wonder why the city doesn't report them to the Marriott Corporation, because there's a franchise agreement between this particular hotel and the Marriott Corporation, which could be being violated if they are not maintaining the rules of the city that they're located in. But I just throw that out there as an attorney who just loves litigation. Are there other questions? Jim Lample, are you muted, Jim?
No.
Okay, go ahead. Would everyone else mute themselves except for the board and Marlon, please? Go ahead, Jim.
I want to get Marlon's attention. He's making notes. Hi, Marlon.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing, sir?
Good. My big issue in this context is the speeding and deliberate noise on the Bayfront Speedway. As you know, Chief DePino was going to be more aggressive in enforcing the noise and speed limits, and even mentioned that there were approximately 30 speed laser guns that were going to be dispersed among her department. So, you know, there's a petition going around. I don't know whether you've been presented with it yet, but it was north of 200 signatures, I believe. And this has been an ongoing problem. Now, Chief DePino was making an attempt to do some enforcement. However, it was very haphazard. We saw it on a Friday night, heavy enforcement, and then a little bit on a Saturday. This is 3-4 weeks ago, and then almost nothing since. I want to know where new Chief Robinson is whether he's up to speed on this, and whether there's going to be consistent enforcement, because we who live on the Bayfront all know when the speeders, we can identify them. It's the same culprits every time. I could tell you the color of the car, and it's on a regular schedule. The worst is starting at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoons, where there's no enforcement at all. Thank you.
Okay. So Jim, you know, Chief Reza is the new chief, not Robinson.
No, Reza. Okay.
Yeah, Reza. So the first thing that the Deputy City Manager Robinson did when Chief Reza was appointed on Friday, okay, which is this past Friday, was alert him to that issue on the Bayfront and at the bridge. And so he is fully aware of it. We do have the 30 laser guns that were deployed to all officers and they're, you know, during their shift, so that when there is downtime, they are actually doing enforcement. And so, you know, again, I don't know their schedule. I know that they are all aware of those high visibility areas where we have some issues. And it is my hope, if it's not happening, I will get, as soon as this call is finished, I will get the Chief Reaser to find out, why it is not happening. But again, he was only here, he only started on Friday. Today is Wednesday. If it starts on Thursday, rest assured, we will have traffic enforcement.
Right, but as a follow-up, Marlon, this is an ongoing thing, and the new chief is up to speed because he's been here for so long. So none of this is news to him.
Right.
And I would encourage you to have a patrol car to sit at the bottom of Main Street on Friday afternoon. Thank you.
At the bottom of Main Street, okay?
Yes, because that's where the revving of the engines and the exhaust backfire is. Starts there.
Okay, so Jim, just from a legal perspective, because somebody is revving their engines, and I will get you the case law on that, we can't, ticket someone for doing that, especially if they, because again, let me get you the case law on that. That is a difficult issue to enforce unless they, if you're saying that they're just standing there over 10, 15 minutes doing that, that's an issue. If they're stopped at a light and they're revving and then, they leave, that is going to be difficult to enforce.
Okay, just so you know, I've measured it at over 90 decibels. That's all.
Yeah, I'll get you the legal, issue on that. That's hard. That's very difficult to enforce.
Thank you. I'll take one more question. Anybody else? I'm looking at both sides. There are two whole, Elka, would you like to ask a question?
I would. These DSCA meetings are very interesting, and we were just wondering who is allowed to view the recordings? Do you ever let individual condo buildings borrow the videos, or is it just for records?
I believe anybody can see the videos, but why don't we'll talk about this a bit later. I'll look into that, unless Patrick can answer that now. Actually, let's talk about it later. We'd like people to view them actually, and we would appreciate your disseminating the work that we do. So thank you. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Brown. Your secretary should be happy, although I did keep you a little bit longer than I promised to. But we do appreciate it, and we do hope that you'll come back.
I definitely thank you, Eileen. Thank you, DSA membership. And again, I always enjoy meeting with constituents of this community. So anytime you need me to come back, I'll make myself available.
We certainly appreciate that, and best of luck in your new job.
Thank you.